Afternoon, YouTube. Well, sorry it's been a long time since I've got a video made, but while I've been not making videos, I've been doing other things. So, we built the barn. I bought a truck, and I bought a trailer. So, I spent a crap ton of money, and well, my wife didn't even know about it. Oh, crap. Never mind. I guess she knows about it. Anyhow, I've had a couple of viewers ask me a couple questions about my LX55. The answer is I have not ran an LT15, so I honestly cannot say if I would buy an LT15 instead of the LX55. The one thing I can tell you though is I really, honest God's truth, enjoy running the LX55. It's a simple little mill. If something goes wrong with it, I don't have hydraulic hoses, I don't have electronics, I don't have any of that. It's all mechanical stuff, and I'm, well, kind of a mechanical type person, so, you know, if it's nuts and bolts and bearings and motors and drives and stuff like that, that's stuff I can work on. As far as the LT15 goes, I don't know. I've not ran one. Maybe I can get a hold of somebody who owns one and see if they will let me run it for a little bit. I don't know if anybody's in my neck of the woods that's got one. If you happen to run across this video and you happen to have an LT15, either leave in the comments your opinion of it, and maybe even reach out to me and see if, you know, we can't meet up and, you know, I can ask some questions and maybe actually answer the question that everybody's been asking me, is LT15 or LX55. But like I said, this is a simple little mill. It's easy to run, and you know, there's my youngest boy. He's always out here wanting to help me mill stuff. Now recently I've rearranged a lot of stuff. I originally had the mill sitting right there, and I was having to load and unload the mill every time with the tractor, and I actually wound up burning the starter up on the tractor due to that. So I got down and started thinking about, you know, what could I do to improve my system? And this is the system that I come up with. I turned the mill 90 degrees from where it was to right there. I've got a place to put my slabs. It's easier to clean out the sawmill, or sawdust. And I've got a bit of a log deck here to where all I got to do is roll logs onto the sawmill. I've got a couple of broken 4x6s or whatever, and I just can't hook them on, and I've now got logs on the mill. The only thing I have to start the tractor for now is just simply loading the logs onto the deck. So it makes life so much easier. Don't know why I didn't think of that in the first place. I know people have asked me in the past on what my opinion of having the sawmill on a trailer. And I've got a couple of things. The reason why I moved it off the mill, or off of the trailer, was, well, I've got a 16-foot trailer. Well, now I've got a 25-foot trailer, but that's for hauling logs, not for the sawmill to set on. A 16-foot trailer is not quite long enough for the base, no extensions added, just the base LX55. Look at this little guy. He's trying to turn a log, just like Dad does. Anyhow, a 16-foot trailer is just not quite long enough. You always find yourself walking off the edge, you know, you've got enough room, barely, but you know, anytime you have to shut down, you find yourself walking out on the tongue of the trailer, starting the sawmill, you just find yourself running out of room. Now, if I was to set it back on the 16-foot trailer, I'd move the mill all the way to the, as it's going down the highway, the right side of the trailer, to give you enough room on this side of the mill to actually take and walk around to do stuff with the log. Now, I've learned that the easiest, one of the things that I found that helped me a lot was after I make a cut, if I'm just boxing the heart or dealing with slabs, to make your cut, leave the mill or the saw head at the other end of the track, throw your slab off, and then bring your head back. Now, when I'm like working on, you know, a cant or whatnot, and I'm squaring stuff up, I'll do the same thing. The only thing that I've run into is when I do it that way, if I'm working with like a really big log, especially it's still got the taper on the butt, like a butt log, a big butt log. Well, this only goes up to, well, it goes up so high, it's just a small mill. But the thing that I found if I'm not careful, especially if like I said, you got a log with like a lot of tape. I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but this right here, that's, you know, how it takes and it kind of flares off. Well, on some logs, it really gets crazy and flares off pretty hard. If you turn the log while it's down on that end of the mill, and you got those big stabilizers, whatever you want to call them, you can't get the blade up high enough to get back over the top of them. Now, you got a chainsaw, you can take and trim those off, which I'd recommend anyhow, before you even put the log on the mill. Because it does make it, when you've got those big wedges on the side, it does kind of, the log rolls funny, and then you got one end really high and the other one really low. And if you don't trim them off, I recommend with the sawmill, before you actually start biting in and removing a slab, of going down and removing those wedges off the side of the log. Helps out a lot. Kind of levels the log out a little bit without actually, which this sawmill has no way to level a log. You put a floor jack underneath there, I guess. I've seen people use like the old style scissor lift, car jacks, bottle jacks to help level the log out. But this one doesn't have any toe boards of any kind to help level the log. But once you get the log squared up into a cant, or if you got a really good straight log, you know, I find that I push the head down and I deal with the log or a slab or whatever, and then when I come back, I'm ready to make another cut instead of having to walk around the head of the saw and all that cool jazz, which is extra steps wear you out over time, especially when you're, you know, you got 15 logs to mill. I mean, it's going to take you all day, and you know, if you put 9,000 steps in when you could have only put, you know, maybe 5,000 steps in, it makes a difference. I'm just making up numbers. But anyhow, so 16-foot trailer is not quite long enough for the LX55. Now, if you've got an 18 to where you're going to kind of center things a little bit more, that helps out a lot. Like the big gooseneck that I've got, that the above deck, to where you've got almost 8 feet of room to work. Heck yeah. And if I had another big 16 or another big gooseneck like that, or even a bumper pull that was above deck that was long enough, I'd consider putting this back on a trailer. But if you're doing a lot of stationary stuff to where, you know, back and forth with tractor and having to load each log individually. Now, if you've got a newer tractor, you know, starters are expensive, but Or if you don't care, just leave your tractor running, which, I mean, that's diesel fuel, and you know how diesel fuel is these days. It's kind of going through the roof. But yeah, just kind of sit down and plan out how you're wanting to handle your logs, your sawdust, your slabs. If you don't have a tractor, I mean, well, you're gonna have fun figuring out how to move logs. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of alternative ways to moving logs. There's log arches, I mean, I guess you can even pull it with a horse if you wanted to, if you got a horse to pull it with. But, so yeah, one of my viewers, Joe Martin, had a interesting question that I figured I'd answer in this video. So he said that he's got a mill on order and he's wanting to build a base for it. What I built is just a couple of cants. They're like 4x6, I think is what they are. But if you want to actually like kind of like build a table to set it on, which makes sense. But he was asking what the measurement was from the bottom of the rail to the handle. So, for you, Joe. So I'm going to go from the bottom of the rail up to the top of the handle. Looks to be about 40 inches. Now, being that you're wanting to build a table for it, I'm going to give you some other dimensions. From the outside edge of the rail to the outside edge of the rail is 36.5, like dead on. So now you kind of know how wide to build your platform that you're wanting to set it on. Now, I'm going to have my lovely wife take the tape measure down to the other end of the mill, and I'll tell you exactly how long the rail is. On the very top? Okay. So on the very top of the rail comes to 15 feet, like right on it. Now, if you add 5-foot extension to it, you'll have to, you know, if you add any extensions to it, you'll have, I believe those come in 5 feet only. They don't come in anything more than 5 feet and nothing less than 5 feet. So, but the 3 sections that it comes with, it's 15 feet overall length, 36.5 inches wide from the outside of the bends to the outside of the bends, and then from the bottom, the very bottom, to the top of the handle, I believe 40 inches. I'll remeasure that right quick. Up to the top of the handle's like right at 40 inches. Alright, so I have another viewer that asked a very interesting question as well. Carlo Testa, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Seriously, I'm not meaning to. But I'm going to answer your question as well on the measuring system. Now, I'm going to work on tightening the blade up, and I'm going to actually mill a few pieces of wood and kind of, so if you want to come around here and show them this. Alright, so what you got here is this is a quarter scale. You want to back up just to here. Thanks. So you got 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, and 8/4. They also have a ruler here on the side that doesn't take into account the 1/8 inch kerf that your blade's going to remove out of the wood. So if you go off the quarter, yes, between this line and this line is 1 inch. But when you move down to your next cut, you see it's, you know, like 2 1/8. Yeah, that'd be 2 1/8. I guess maybe that's a 16th kerf. I'm not sure, maybe it is an 1/8. So anyhow, it basically takes, so it's, as you can see, the lines don't, you know, it doesn't match right up with 2 and it doesn't match right up with 3. The 4/4 scale grows, like, what'd be the term for that?
Exponential?
Yeah, that way, exponentially. Due to the fact that, you know, the 1/4 scale adds in what the blade's removing. So if you put your blade, if you put the line right on top of your measure bar, so like right there, that says, let me run on down. The way I kind of set my mill up is I'll set the line like right on top, like right there is a perfect cut. Like that is kind of where I'm coming from. Right there is like where I usually make my cuts at. If I go a little bit more and that line disappears, I know I'm going to be less than an inch. So the way I typically run is like literally right about there for when I'm making my cuts. So anyhow, so what I'll do then is I'm gonna tighten the blade up. I'll roll one of these logs on. Now the logs are a little bit long. I think this one here is gonna be like one of my max cuts. Alright,
so I'm gonna need a... Okay, what am I filming now?
I'm just tightening the blade.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go through and kind of show you a couple of cuts on how the 1/4 scale works. I'm gonna have my wife do a little filming for me, and my goober ass left the tripod at the house, and we're down at the farm, and the tripod's like almost 90 miles away. So get this blade on here and I'll get it fired up, and make a couple cuts, kind of show you what the 1/4 measurements come out to. You got your 4/4, 5/4, so forth, all the way up to 8/4. Now, if you can read a tape measure, you'll be all right. As far as, I mean, it is 8 inches, I believe. So from the top of the blade to the bottom of the throat, you get 8.5 inches. So if you're planning on milling anything more than 8 inches, you're just gonna have to kind of use a tape measure and kind of measure out where you want to go. You can run an 8x8 through here, or, well, I mean, you can run an 8x22 through here if that's what you so chose to do. That's going to be a big log, and it's going to take you a minute to mill it. Even running the 14 horsepower motor, and that's what I've got. They don't offer anything bigger. Now it is just like a Kohler motor, so I'm sure if you wanted to upgrade, it wouldn't be that hard. To go with a bigger motor, you might have like a different bolt pattern. I'm kind of funny where I don't like to change the way, you know, it was designed to work, because I'm not sure what the rating is on the bearings. You'll have to go in, ask Woodmizer that. So you don't want to overwork something, because, you know, it's sharp. Duh. But so yeah, so let me get this tightened up right, and I'll stop talking and start making some sawdust. There is a limit to how much, I mean, if you've got endless time, you don't care how much time you spend trying to saw something, that is totally up to you. The nice thing about having your own sawmill is you can mill whatever you want to an extent. So this log is 8'10", and it measures 6.5 inches on the small end. Alright, now, if you're just doing like 3/4 boards or something like that, or if you're just shooting for a 4x4, you can get a 4x4 out of this log, or you can get a whole lot of 3/4 boards. But if you're milling for 2x4s, you might get a couple out of it, and again, you might not. How you orient it on the mill really makes a big difference on what you get out of it. This log's a little small for what I need, so I'm going to do a demonstration and kind of show you how the log scale works and kind of what to expect out of it. So yeah, I'll kind of walk you through this a little bit. And show you what the mill, how that log scale works. So I've got the mill down there on that end of the track. Now this is what I kind of show you. Now's the time to take and throw that off of there while the mill's down here. Now I've got a flat side. So now that I've got a flat side, I can go ahead and flip it all the way over. Just cause. Typically, I'll take and flip and just turn it 90 degrees to where this is up against here. It doesn't really matter. I haven't seen a really big difference in it. Flipping it 90 degrees or 180 degrees. Oh, whatever. I guess I'll just leave it like this. Take and lower that down out of the path of the blade. That is something that you'll figure out on your own of where that's at. Yes, I've gotten my saw blade into my blocks. It happens. Recommend making a habit of it though. Sorry, my wife got busy, so I gotta run the camera by myself now. And I don't have my GoPro here. Now we're gonna take and just crank this handle. And it's gonna go up. We're gonna clear that. Come back and we're going to select our next cut. We're going to go down I took a little bit more off than I should have, probably. I'm gonna set you down for this one. But just like that, now you've got a more or less, well, two-sided tent. I'm gonna flip this one. I am gonna flip this 180. I think. Getting hot out here. I'll see if I can do this one-handed. Speaking of which, my hand is doing a lot better. Let me get this tape measure out to where I can read it. Yeah, that'll work. So right there, whatever. That's a 3/4 of an inch board. Now I'm gonna make a 1-inch board, and basically I'm just gonna make each of the quarter up there on the log scale. Let me shut this engine off. So, something to take into consideration. Now, if you're working on 3/4 boards, like all you want is 3/4 of an inch. Now, by the time you get it, planed out and it's dried and it's shrunk and everything, that's going to turn into probably about a 1/2 inch board. Or unless you just use it rough cut, green, don't care. Now, if you're going to use it for furniture, I'd recommend kiln drying it, and you'll learn that. So, as you can see, my log scale is, so if I go from 3/4, I'm like, all right, well, I'll make an inch board. Well, if I just jump to the 4/4, that's not going to be an inch board. It's probably another 3/4 board, to be honest with you. Now, if for the next one, I may just go ahead and jump down here to the 6, because that's 6/4, so that would be 1.5 inches. So, and then just run from this 6 to that 6, and I'd have 1.5 inch board. So I'm not that great at math, but I'll run you through this. So 3/4, 3/4 of an inch, 4/4, 4/4 of an inch, 5/4. 5/4 is 1.25 inches. If you're doing something like cherry or walnut and you're looking for, after it's planed, after it's dried, after everything, a inch thick board, you would probably consider running a 5/4. Now, if anybody else out there who's got a sawmill, if I'm wrong on this, please correct me. Then your 6/4 dimensional lumber. Or here again, it all just depends on what you're doing. Now, over here on your 8/4, it's going to be 2-inch cut. So I hope that kind of explains that a little bit to you. I'll keep sawing here and kind of see if I can't lay this out and kind of give you an idea. So there's 3/4 board right there. It's kind of a junk board. I'm going to run down to my 6/4 and show you what the 6/4 does. Now I'm going to waste a little bit on that cut because I'm going from 3/4 to 6/4, and there's a little bit of difference there. That's so paper thin. I mean, it's thin. Raise it up a hair, bring it back. Now we're going to jump down. So we just milled on that 6. Now we're going to go down to the next 6. Right there. Right about there. Now, when you get your mill, you're going to lower this all the way down. These tabs are here to where you can mill within an inch of the frame. They've got those aluminum blocks that are on the clamps. They hook up underneath, like right here. See this one here? It hooks up underneath there to where you can cut within an inch of the bed frame. See here, there's a difference. I've got it just stuck in there because I don't have a good square edge. If you don't have a good square edge, or if you got some wane, the hook will slip off. Alright, so let's make an 1.5-inch board. So we'll pull this off of here and measure it. Show you what we got. And now that was running the 6/4 on the log scale. And we come out with 1.5 inches. Now this is green, rough cut, not been planed or anything. So by the time it shrinks and dries and you plane it, it's going to obviously be less than, you'll need to take that in consideration. If your project requires 1.5 inches, now if you use it green, you don't care, that's one thing. But if you're planning on like building furniture or really good quality stuff and you want exactly 1.5 inches, you're going to have to mill over to where it can come back to, when it shrinks, to that 1.5 inches. And then now if you're running a rough cut and you don't care, and I mean, you can tell it's not very rough. One pass with the planer and it's going to be smooth, more than likely. I haven't actually run any of these through the planer, but so that's something to take into consideration. So if your project requires 1.5 inches or 1 inch and you're going to kiln dry and sterilize and plane and whatnot, you'll need to mill your boards thicker to where you have somewhere to go and get to your exact measurement that you're looking for. So I hope that answers your question. If you've got any more questions about this sawmill, just let me know. I will mention you in a video, answer your question, and yeah. So just hit me up in the comments, ask me what you want to know, and I will do my absolute best to show you what you need to know. Well, that's it for now, folks. God bless America. Take it easy.